I am going to tell you 5 things you can do before or instead of giving advice. 5 things. There it is. Hi, I'm Tracy Andes, licensed clinical social worker and psychotherapist, bringing you the welcome vibe. All right, let's get into it. 5 things. The first thing, someone has a problem. Get curious, ask some questions. A lot of times, the problem they're telling you about, or what you think the problem is, isn't the actual problem. For example, I might come to you and say, my mom is crazy. And then you start asking me questions. What happened? Or, what are some other questions? Like, I'm going to tell you what happened and then my frustrations. And you'll probably ask more questions. We're looking for open ended questions. And it may turn out it seems like actually it's not my mom who's crazy or being unpleasant, but I'm disappointed in myself for a decision I made that my mom called me out on. Who knows? But my point is, you can't know what you would even give advice on till you ask questions. So ask questions, particularly open ended questions that begin with who, what, where, how. Now, why questions are one you really need to be very, very careful of and maybe even avoid because why can imply judgment. Why'd you do that? Oh, avoid it if you can. All right, next, paraphrase. This one is where you use a road sign to say that you're gonna paraphrase. So you might say, okay, well, hold on, I wanna make sure I'm getting this. What you're saying is, or you might say, let me make sure I'm picking up what you're putting down. Or another one would be, let me make sure I'm getting this right. Now, this gives the other person an opportunity to correct you if you're not understanding it correctly. It also gives them a chance to hear what they're saying and get a bird's eye view of summary, which can be helpful. So that's number 2, paraphrase. Number 3, explicitly express your positive regard and support of that person. Now, you'll find your own style, just like how you would introduce a paraphrase would be indicative of your personality. But examples of ways you can express your positive regard for someone might be, I know you're a strong person, and I'm rooting for you. Or it could be, listen, whatever happens, it matters to me. Keep me informed. Or I believe in you. Or I know your capabilities, and I'll be right beside you. And I care. Keep me posted. But communicate support and your genuine caring and positive beliefs about the strengths and capabilities of that person. That's number 3. Number 4, identify the feelings. Okay, you do not have to, I recommend very strongly not implementing these techniques in any particular order. Number 4, identify the feeling. If you're really listening to someone when they're conveying events and putting yourself in their shoes, you can imagine how it might feel. So you can identify this feeling by saying something like, oh, that sounds so frustrating. Or, God, it's like one more thing, huh? Or, oh, you must be stunned. However, you just take a stab. Just like when you paraphrase, it's you're sort of getting your bearings and making sure you're following along. It lets them know that you're paying attention, that you're really in the story. And it also gives them a chance to clarify, well, actually, it wasn't so much frustrating as disappointing. You know what I mean? So that gives you a chance to walk alongside with them and maybe even help them identify the feelings because you're noticing how you would feel in that situation. And that kind of helps them feel like they're being heard. Now, I will offer a caveat. You can say how you would feel in their shoes, but it can be kind of tricky once you start taking on their problems. If you say, that must be so frustrating, it's one thing. And it's quite another thing when you say, I'm going to call them and I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. Well, now, not only potentially do they have their problem, but now they've got to deal with you because you're mad. Something to think about. Okay, number 5. Ask them, well, gosh, what do you think you might like to try? Or what do you think you should do? Or what are even are some of your options? Help them identify what they want to do. You're not giving advice, you're just kind of helping them think it out on their own. Those are the 5 things I suggest doing before you give advice. You may never even give advice. And somehow, I believe if you do these things, other people will think you give the best advice. Well, that's all I got. This is the Welcome Vibe. I wish you well and I wish you welcome. Bye.